Hi, Jenni here, and my bookshelves make me feel very overwhelmed. They are overflowing with books. I've started to put books behind books because I do not have space for all the books I have. So I thought it was high time to do an unhaul. I'll go shelf by shelf because I haven't exactly decided which ones I will be giving away. I usually just donate to my library's recycling shelf, and sometimes libraries take those books and add them into their collection, and sometimes people pick them out. I love that. But yeah, I'll go through shelf by shelf and see if there is anything I could give away. The first two shelves, I already looked at these, and they are perfect. Not a single book is a miss. I love all of the books that are there. So those two shelves are safe. But on the third shelf on my first bookshelf, yeah, I think all of these are fine. So these ones are staying, but these books were behind those books, and I'll talk about them a little bit. I've read all of them. Let's start with Jennifer Saint. Listen, I absolutely love Ariadne, which was a Greek mythological retelling of the character of Ariadne and her story, and takes place in Crete, and I really loved that one. I also really liked Hera, which was about the goddess Hera, and I really liked that one. Not as much as Ariadne, but I was really impressed with that one. Electra, though, this sucks because I wanted to keep the whole series, but if I didn't like the books, I shouldn't have them on my shelves, right? Electra, I feel like, was an attempt at female rage, but I feel like the execution didn't fulfill that. So I'm gonna give this one away. It sucks because it's a hardcover, but yeah, if I don't like the book, I should give it away, right? The next one is Atalanta. I thought this was fine. I read this while I was in Crete, and it's very adventurous. It's the story of Atalanta, who was like a great huntress. And yeah, it was enjoyable. I had fun reading it on the poolside, but not as impressive as Ariadne. And it's not really in the scope of what I usually like anyway, so I think I'm gonna give this one away as well. Then this one, Karin Erlandsson Koti. I bought this last year. I really love family historical fiction, like stories of families of several generations. But this wasn't it really. It was a collection of short stories of different characters in different times of history, and all of them were just connected by this one stone at the beach, but there was no real actual connection between the characters that I was expecting. So it was fine, but I was disappointed with this one, and it sucks because it's another hardcover. The cover is stunning, but maybe I shouldn't give it in the collection if I didn't like it. The last one from the third shelf is The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong. I read this in the beginning of the year. I bought this from Tallinn. I just thought the cover is so sweet and the concept sounded really lovely to me. But I don't think cozy fantasy is my thing. I felt like this was maybe written for a TikTok crowd of fantasy readers, and I'm just not that. I very rarely even read fantasy, even though this Unhaul makes it seem like I read fantasy all the time. But yeah, I think this one has to go. It was cute. Not bad, but just has to go. Alright, moving on to the fourth shelf. And I recently made a video talking about being disappointed by some of Jenni Colgan's books. And I think I'm ready to downsize my Jenni Colgan collection. I obviously still have books from her that I really, really love, so I'm not giving those away. But I will unhaul some of them. Okay, so I thought there would be a lot more to unhaul from this shelf, but I guess not. Starting with two Jenni Colgan books. These are parts of series that I have not read at all. I just bought this Jenni Colgan books, the back covers sound nice, and then as I started reading, I realized that they were parts of series that I have not read. I mentioned in my other video about Jenni Colgan's books that these were a bit of disappointments. I actually wrote notes in them why I was disappointed in them. So while I'm gonna keep the last part of this series, I'm gonna give up these because I was not happy with them completely. And the last book from that shelf is The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. This is another Greek mythological retelling. I actually made a video like a few years ago about being in my Greek mythological retellings era. And this was about the Trojan War, or like the era of it. And this was just full of traumatic events. And I was mostly just horrified reading this. Achilles was absolutely awful in this book. I had Women of Troy, but I already unhauled it because I cannot go through that amount of violence against women in a Greek retelling, which I know that the Greek mythological stories, that they are very violent. I know, but I felt like this was a bit too much. So that's gonna go too. Okay, and then the last shelf is my books from my youth, so like The Hunger Games, John Green, Narnia, and then some other books. Let's see. Alright, so I'm gonna keep all of my other John Green books, except Let It Snow. I did not like this at all. It's also in Finnish. All the rest of my John Green books are in English. Just simply, I did not like it, and I've had it in my collection for a really long time because I've wanted to have all of John Green's books, but like, at this point, bye-bye. This one's difficult because my best friend gave it to me as a Christmas present, but like, I already read it, I thought it was lovely, and I feel like maybe someone else could find enjoyment from this one. All I Want for Christmas by Maggie Knox. This is about Sadie and Max, who are in a singing competition, and then they hate each other, but then they fall in love, basically. Sorry to spoil you. It was cute, it was really lovely. But yeah, I feel like someone else might enjoy this one. And this is Cecilia Ahern, Sateenkaaren tuolla puolen. So in English, this is Where the Rainbows End. And there's a movie adaptation of this one. It's called Love, Rosie. I love that one. Lily Collins, Sam Claflin, come on now. And I really love this book. It's kind of one of those books that I remember reading and like really loving and like thinking like, okay, maybe I could become a reader. However, this edition is a bit... I don't like this edition, and I'd like to have this book in English even though I read it in Finnish. But yeah, I think this one's gonna find a new enjoyer soon. On to my second bookshelf. Obviously the top one is Jane Austen shelf. Nothing's leaving that one. Everything's gonna stay in place. The second one is my Penguin Classics shelf. That's gonna stay put as well. But let's move on to my classics shelf. First one is Little Women in Finnish, translated by Tyyni Haapanen. I have Little Women in English and I think that's enough. I read it in Finnish and I loved it. But it's a bit of a beat up copy and I'm happy with just having an English version. Also, movie tie-in covers, I don't usually like them. This one's cute though. But yeah, bye bye. The second one is Wuthering Heights in Finnish, translated by Juhani Lindholm. This was one of those books that there was like a 3 for 15 euros sale at my bookstore, and like I would find 2 books that I really want, and then I would like, well, let's take that one so we can get the discount. I've now read Wuthering Heights, so I'm just gonna keep the English copy. And then Minna Kant, Kauppalopo, Agnes. Minna Kant is a notable Finnish author, and this edition includes 2 of her short stories. No reason, just like I haven't picked it up until now, so I feel like maybe, I don't know, I just don't feel like having this in my collection, and if I do get interested in these, I will borrow them from the library. Moving on to my first non-fiction shelf, I have a few books that I want to unhaul. We Are Not Here to Be Bystanders by Linda Sarsour. I thought this was a really great autobiography, and I read it twice. And I think Linda Sarsour is an incredible activist and a movement leader. However, I feel like I don't need it on my shelf, that somebody else might find something of value here. So maybe it's best to unhaul it so that someone else can read it as well. This is not an easily available book here in Finland. So maybe me unhauling it could help the book find a new reader. The Diary of a Bookseller by Sean Bydell. I thought it was lovely, fine, quite repetitive, which made me realize that being a bookseller is very repetitive. Just don't need it in my collection anymore. Then Free Cynthia, My Search for Redemption in the American Prison System by Cynthia Brown Long. I'm not gonna go into detail here, but Cynthia was imprisoned for something that she was forced to do when she was underage. And this book really looks into her journey within the American prison system and the flaws of it, but also how she came out to the other side when she was freed. I was very strongly advocating for her freedom on Twitter, and I'm so glad that she was granted freedom. Again, like with the Linda Sarsour book, I feel like me giving this book away will find a new reader for it, and reading this would help them understand the American prison system better and why what happened to Cynthia is so heartbreaking, but it kind of discusses like what she was going through rather than just is completely horrified by what happened to her, if that makes sense. I really like this one, and I want someone else to read it as well. Again, another book that's not really easily available here in Finland. Then on my last non-fiction shelf, which is also part of my magazine collection, I do not have any books to unhaul. So I guess that's it. I thought I would have many more books. I feel like I was expecting that my shelves would be very empty after this unhaul, but never mind. I really do love like 90% of my books, so makes sense that not that many will be unhauled, but quite a few still. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one. Bye!